and he's such a prevalent character in American history that people like to call him or refer to this time period as the Age of Jackson. Okay, so the first thing that really happens is that, and something you really need to know about, is during the election of 1824, this really makes Jackson who he was. So what happens is, and this is a time period known as the Era of Good Feeling, in which actually we had one political party during this time period. And so all four of these candidates run under the Democratic-Republican Party. They were all part of it. Andrew Jackson, Adams, Crawford, and Henry Clay, who was a very prominent member of Congress. Anyway, Jackson actually receives the most votes, but he doesn't get enough votes to win the presidency. So because he doesn't get enough votes to win the presidency, it goes to the House of Representatives to break the tie. Okay? So it goes to the House of Representatives, and this is going to be deemed by Jackson as what he called the corrupt bargain. Okay? So it goes to the House. Clay backs out. He was actually in fourth place. So Clay backs out of it, and he throws his weight and his support. He was a very prominent member of the House of Representatives to Adams. So he supports Adams. Adams does become president over Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is very upset about this. And Clay, shortly after, became the Secretary of State. So Jacksonians believe, that it was a dirty bargain. They call it the corrupt bargain. People that supported, Henry Clay and Adams see it as just, part of politics. But either way, this ends this era of good feeling, and this becomes the foundation of exactly why Jackson forms the modern Democratic Party. Okay? I do want to caution you, though, because a lot of students want to say, well, wait a second, that doesn't sound like the Democratic Party of today, and it's really not. Okay? It's not at all. You can't put your 21st century head onto the Jacksonians and the Democratic Party of the 1830s. It won't fit, okay? Platforms have changed over time. History has changed over time. The history of political parties has changed over time. But either way, this prompts Adams and Clay to form a political party in opposition known as the Whigs. This isn't going to last very long, but it is a political party to kind of go against the Jacksonians. All right, so, here's what these two political parties were made up of. The Democratic Party that really rallies behind Jackson, and they're, of course, opposed to John Quincy Adams. They really go state by state, and this is before the 1828 election, and they, garner support of just common men. So they no longer want property qualifications in order to vote, so they encourage state conventions to drop the property qualifications, prompting more common men to vote. On the other hand, the Whig Party is led by Adams and Clay. They're very much pro the American system by Henry Clay, which is modernization and internal improvements and manufacturing and really things in the North. Okay, which leads us to the actual election of 1828. Okay, let me move out of the way here so we can see them. Of course, Jackson and John Quincy Adams are in this one. And essentially what happens in this one is that, Martin Van Buren, who is, BFFs with Andrew Jackson, immediately campaigns and pushes for Jackson to win. And they use completely modern techniques. It used to be that people just didn't campaign before. But with John Quincy Adams, with Jackson, he begins campaigning, going town by town, holding rallies, kissing babies, using these new techniques that nobody had used before. John Quincy Adams, just the status quo. He doesn't really do anything. He is focused more on internal improvements, and he doesn't campaign, and he ends up absolutely getting slaughtered at the